Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well, and I just want to start this video by saying a massive thank you to all of the well-wishers who've been in touch to sympathise with me for that lousy, stinking, rotten toothache that I had last week, and managed to somehow struggle through the last video I put up with it. I'm pleased to report that everything is fixed and I'm back to normal, and I no longer, as you can see, have a face like the Elephant Man. Anyway, on to the topic of today's video. About a third, roughly speaking, of the people who I teach are complete novices, newbie guitarists, beginners who've just got their first electric guitar and amplifier. And the one thing which unites them usually in confusion is not chord shapes or chord changes or naming the chords or learning the difference between B minor and B flat. That's often a big source of confusion, but we get past all of that sort of stuff quite easily. The thing which confuses the bejesus out of many a novice guitarist is their amplifier. Okay, do you remember in the good old days when people of like our generation when we got our first amplifiers, what controls did it have on it? It had volume. Well, we know what that does. It had bass, middle and treble. Well, we know what they do because we've got those controls on the stereo that we listen to. Gain, oh, what's that? Okay, so you turn that up and it makes it sound all rock and roll. Great, we know what that does. Reverb, what's that do? Okay, turn that up and it makes it sound all echoey. Fantastic. In 5 minutes flat, you've figured out exactly everything what your amplifier does and you're ready to rock, basically. It's not like that nowadays, though, is it? The majority, I think, I don't know if it is a majority, I've not done any scientific kind of study of this, but it certainly seems like a lot of amplifiers that are aimed at the novice guitarist are modelling amplifiers. You know, and we'll come to why a novice guitarist would need all of these different amp models later on. But, you know, the labels that are put on these things, I mean, for example, classic tweed. So it's going to sound like this then, is it? Okay. Or Brit, 1959. Well, Brit, that's Britain, 1959. What happened in Britain in 1959? Well, this fella was elected as Prime Minister for the Conservative Party. The first hovercraft went into operation, and the Mini went on sale. Okay, well, what's any of that got to do with how a guitar sounds? Or then you might get Brit, Class A. Well, you know, any sentence that includes Brit and class usually conjures up images like this these days, doesn't it? Now, of course, we're all experienced, seasoned guitarists, and we know that classic tweed refers to the Fender amplifiers of the 1950s that were usually covered in a tweed-like cloth. And, you know, Brit 1959 isn't a reference to a year in Britain, it's a model number of an amplifier made in Britain by a company called Marshall, and that's the setting that sound apes to reproduce. And, you know, Brit Class A is a reference to a Vox AC30. Now, we know all this sort of stuff because we've been, you know, playing guitar for a while and we've been sort of immersed in the terminology and the jargon and everything. But to your average novice, this kind of thing is more cryptic than a Times crossword. Wouldn't you think it would be an idea for guitar amplifier manufacturers to take a leaf out of the book of guitar manufacturers? You know, how many guitar companies make Strat copies where the model number begins with ST, or Telecaster copies that begin with the prefix TE? So at least it's giving you a clue as to what the end result is supposed to be sounding like. But with amplifier models, it seems to be deliberately opaque, and this is, you know, part of the confusion for a lot of the beginners that I teach. Then we come to the fact that, well, why does a novice guitarist need a range of sounds on tap that, you know, that cover from, say, Eddie Van Halen's Variact Marshall Plexi through to Carlos Santana's Boogie Mark 1 through to Brian May's modded Vox AC30, and that's just on the overdrive sound. Isn't it just easier to kind of turn up the gain a bit and get a dirty sound and then adjust the bass, middle and treble and you know what you're doing, and the sound is still there next time you switch the amplifier on? Because quite often with these beginner modelling amps or any modelling amp, you dial in the sound the way you like it, and great, that's fine. You switch the amp off and then you come back and it's a completely different sound because it defaults into the preset mode, rather than the manual mode and where the actual controls are set, where you're looking at the controls and you think, okay, that's my sound. No, it isn't. Your sound is whatever preset is switched on when you switch the amplifier on. And of course, being a novice or a newbie, you're not really into conversant with the idea that you've got to save the sound as a preset. I mean, yes, you could look at the instruction manual, that printed A4 sheet of paper with, badly translated Chinese English instructions occupying like 1/16 of one side of the page in a typeface so small that it borderline you need an electron microscope to read it, and even then it's not particularly helpful. Wouldn't it be just easier for guitar shops, rather than pushing the Line 6 Spider or the Black Star Core whatever it is, or the Marshall Code whatever it is, to just sell a good sounding basic amp with gain, volume, bass, middle, treble and a bit of reverb on it? This is what I advise all of my novice students to do. If they haven't already bought an amp, I'll say go out and buy the Bugera V5 Infinium. Fantastic little all-valve 5-watt amp that is simplicity itself to get a great sound out of. Or something like the Orange Micro Terra or Joyo Blue Jay, or any of these amplifiers, these little micro amps that are becoming increasingly popular, not just for beginners but for working musicians these days, rather than having all of these bad impersonations of classic amplifiers crammed into a little box where every control does two different things depending upon whether you hold this button down while you're turning that knob, or whether you pull the knob out and turn it and it does something else, and all of this confusing, bewildering option anxiety that is aimed at people who are new to the instrument. It just seems bizarre that is the way that amplifiers tend to get packaged and sold with guitars to beginners these days. But that's just my opinion. As you can tell, today has been a bit of a rant because this has been on my mind for a while, and I just thought I'd spew it forth to all of my loyal subscribers, I hope. Well, just let me know what you think. Is this something that's confused you? Leave a comment below. Is this something that you've wrestled with, or did you take to it relatively easily? And, I'm just fretting over nothing. As I say, it's certainly something that a lot of my students have reported having problems and confusion and many hours of head scratching and bewilderment over. So let me know what you think on the whole topic. And that is pretty much it for today, folks. I hope you've got something from this video other than watching a middle-aged, bald, angry man shouting at a webcam. Frankly, that's all that's been happening, isn't it? So yeah, don't forget my Udemy courses. I am elbow deep in a new one of those at the moment, all on playing slide guitar in standard tuning. I'll give you more details on that as and when it gets nearer completion. Speaking of my Udemy courses, the one of them, Play Lead Guitar the Easy Way, is about to be bundled in with the rather wonderful Fret Zealot tuition aid, which I did a review of a little while ago. And if you fancy getting yourself a Fret Zealot, then just use the discount code you can see on screen to get yourself, well, a discount, basically. What else would you use a discount code for? Fantastic tuition aid. It's really helping get rid of some of the non-amp related confusion with a lot of my students. And yeah, I've been enjoying using it a lot myself, discovering all kinds of weird and exotic scales on the guitar. Yeah, so Udemy courses, check out the end of the video for details on how to get those and how to order them, and t-shirts and stuff as well. And I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Bye for now, folks. And don't forget, before you go, to check out my Udemy courses, which you can see are available via my website, which is also where you can contact me to get in touch for some one-to-one tuition, either via Skype or in person if you live local to me. I also have merchandise available on my Teespring store, and of course all of the links are in the description. See you next time, chaps.